If you have ever wondered if you are going to be capable of tiling a floor yourself, or you've hired somebody and you just want to know what the process looks like, then this video is going to be great for you. Hi, I'm Jeff from RenoVision DIY, and my channel specializes in teaching people the skills that they need so that they can DIY their own remodeling and renovations. Today, we're going to be teaching you guys how to tile, and we're talking basics, okay? This is not an advanced course. This is for homeowners who want to just be able to have a simple tile project and be successful with it. We're going to be talking about, why is the floor blue right now, Jeff? This is a little bit bizarre. The truth is that this is sheet vinyl and it's glued down to the concrete. And that is an acceptable substrate if you use a multi-surface bonding primer on it. We're going to leave the science, the building science, alone in this video because there's multiple different floors and products that you can install tile on. That's another whole ball of wax. Today is the actual installation, how to be successful, and tips and tricks so that you don't have a tile failure and have to replace the work down the road after you put all your fixtures in your room and your appliances. My goodness, there's a lot of disasters that can happen from making simple, basic mistakes. So today is going to be all that information you need so you don't make those, okay? Now, let's just jump right into this and I'll show you how we got this place primed up, and then we'll talk about the tools, our techniques. We've got two different sizes of tile today. We're going to show different diagrams, how to lay them out, how to install, the rules for laying tile, how temperature and humidity and all of these things affect the installation. Lots of tips and tricks coming your way. Enjoy this video. Cheers. So now we've seen how to tile a wood on wood structure, cement board on wood structure. Now we're on the concrete floor in the basement of the church. And so I actually have a glued down vinyl flooring here. And yes, it is possible to install tile directly on top of the vinyl glued down flooring, not on wood, but on concrete, you can do it. Basically, you just want to cut off the excess, okay? Anything that's got a ridge, it's going to be in the way. There's that lovely old flooring. All right, and you're going to want to sweep this really good. Grab the vacuum, clean all that up, okay? Make sure you go by the dollar store and get a roller. $1.50. This is a throwaway. This is what you want to use in this scenario. This is not time to go get a $10 microfiber. This is not a finished paint job, okay? Throw it on your cage. Grab yourself some of this multi-surface bonding primer. We use this in a video where I showed you how to tile over tile. We'll link to that as well. It's a great instructional for wall tile. Today we're dealing with floors. Now, same technology. Guess I gotta manhandle this thing. I don't know where my opener is. Okay. Oh, yeah. Nothing special about this, okay? Once we've swept, we're just going to pour some of that out. All right? Use whatever you got handy. Broomstick. These are available at Home Depot for $5. They thread it, it's universal size and paint handles, okay? Or you can grab yourself the Worcestershire lock sticks that I use with my green handle. But this is fine. This stuff is messy, all right? Don't be in a hurry, it'll spray everywhere. And you just want to push it around. And what this does is this creates a bond between the existing floor and the Thinset that we're going to be using to put the cement, the tile down. All right? The rule is kind of like, you want about 85 to 90% coverage of your Thinset with your substrate. So you're going to have to make sure they get close to the walls. All right, but no, we're going to be leaving a gap for the tile as well. So you can go about ½ an inch from the wall, that's fine. It's not going to hurt anybody. This doesn't have to be precise. This is not a moment of Picasso brilliance. We're just getting this sloppy stuff on here to get the job done. Okay? Underneath the cabinets, there's never any weight there. Again, not a real big concern. All right? Bonding primer is an amazing agent. The world of tile, you're going to have two opportunities. One is direct bond, and that's what we're doing here. And that is the cement board or the wood on the wood screwed down, where you're tiling your tile direct to a surface. This is actually an uncoupling membrane system because And that's like Ditra, right? The orange mat, that's an uncoupling membrane system, and there's more than one, but that's what this essentially ends up becoming. Because the tile is now bonded to the surface of this vinyl, but the underside of the vinyl is glued to the concrete. And because of those three different layers, they can move around a little bit independent of each other. So although there's a direct weight transfer onto the concrete, this becomes like a cheap homemade uncoupling membrane. So you don't have to spend money on Schluter Dieter here. Now, if you are on a concrete floor and you've got glued down vinyl like this, and your plan is to have tile and transition to hardwood, then I would recommend do the bonding primer like this, then use the Schluter Dieter and attach it right on top. And that will give you a perfect transition from tile to hardwood if you're using 3/4 inch hardwood, okay? Other than that, it's not necessary. There we go. That's simple. I'm just gonna finish rolling this out. We're gonna demonstrate today a few different tiles with different sizes, different layout options, okay? Because this is a studio. I don't care what my floor looks like when I'm finished. So we're gonna show some square pattern, some offset, some continuous 1/3 grout joints, different grout sizes, a couple of different grout products. It's gonna be very in-depth, okay? We're gonna have a lot of fun. So stick with us. We'll show you every trick that I got about how to tile on floors so that you can do your project and be successful with yours. All right, let's just jump through the tools real quick, okay? What you're gonna need before you can start a tile job, and I'm gonna advise this for everybody, is get a laser that does a cross line. Oops, let me turn this on. Boom, boom, and there. You get an actual intersection, okay? And we'll show you in the video why this is so valuable. This laser is from Firecore. We have a link in our video description. You can check this out and get them on Amazon. Very affordable. It's not designed to be thrown around and abused, but it is great for tile installation. It also has the ability to go with another line, so you can bring your laser designs up on the wall as well. So you can go right from the floor to the wall and keep the entire room square. Okay, now, that's part of layout, because layout is really key. Knowing the end from the beginning is how you get a nice tile job. We're not going to get too in-depth and complicated today because we're going to talk about basic floors, but so this is great for basic floors. That cross line is the key to a beginner's having great success. We'll show you that in a minute. You're going to need a mixing blade. There's a lot of different blades on the market. Just go to your local store, find out what they're selling, and tell them it's for Thinset. You buy your Thinset there as well. And so you'll need one of these. You'll need a couple of pails. We're going to be mixing our Thinset in the pails, and you're going to want to have one pail of water set aside to put this in after you're done mixing to keep the Thinset from hardening on your blade, all right? You wash your tools as you go when you're doing tile, right? Not at the end of the week. This is the key. You're also going to need a slow speed mixer. Don't use your regular drill, okay? There's a lot of weight and a lot of power required, and you don't want to mix your products too fast. Thinset and grout need to be mixed at a lower speed than your regular drill can do, and it's going to overwork your power tools and kill batteries and maybe even burn out your tool altogether. So invest, it's about $100. Next, whether you're doing 13 by 13, 12 by 24, 24 by 24, 6 by 48, most tile that goes on installation gets this trowel. It's a 1/4 width and a 3-inch depth, okay? So it's 1/4 by 3/8 by 1/4, that's what it's called. That's for almost every installation. It's very rare we have to go to 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch trowel. That's advanced tile technology, and today's a simple video. So if you're gonna do a basic installation and you're not gonna put in a 3 by 3 foot tile, this is gonna work good for you. That's called a margin trowel. This is how you keep your job clean, okay? This is a great tool. We're going to show you when we're doing the installation why this is so valuable. I got basic spacers here today. Now, we're not using a tile leveling clip system in this video. In a lot of installations, it's not necessary. Tile clip installations have taken over the internet. There's videos out there, all kinds of different colored plastic kits, and there are times when they're very valuable. Most floors, you don't need them, okay? If you can just learn how to apply Thinset and have a system for installing tile consistently, you're not going to have lippage. So we just use this to create the right spacing for beginners so that all your grout lines are consistent, all right? And of course, a sponge. Clean, clean, clean. Clean as you go, all right? Don't leave Thinset on the tiles while you're working. Clean as you go, and it'll save your bacon, because a lot of basic tile installations are still ceramic or light duty porcelain, and you don't want to be using tools to clean grout after the fact. Clean as you go so you don't get chips and wreck your floor, all right? You also want to have a level. This is aluminum, it's very lightweight, and this is perfect. This will help maintain your level surfaces, and you just drag it along as you work to make sure you don't have lippage. That's the fancy word, lippage, for when you have two tiles and one corner is sticking up. The industry standard for lippage is 1/8 of an inch. I know, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is. If it's bigger than that, you're out of business, all right? A lot of guys go with 1/16 of an inch, and the tile pros generally on floors, if it's more than that, it's lippage. And of course, in the comment section today, you're gonna have every opinion of everybody who's ever laid a tile. What I'm trying to tell you is this. I worked in the industry doing new home construction. I've worked as a contract tile installer for years for a flooring company. I know what I'm doing. I never got kicked off my jobs. And there are different levels of perfection for different kinds of installation in different industries out there. In new home construction, they give you 2 days to do 1,000 square feet, 14 different kinds of tile all over the house, accent colors and grouting and everything. They give you 2.5 days to get the job done. And that's your whole week. New home construction look very much like this. You walk in, you don't look at anything, you don't measure anything. You just walk to the far end, you throw Thinset down, you trowel it in, and you just start laying tile. And whatever the hell happens on that job happens. Wherever it lands, it lands. A lot of times, there's just no time to be specific, to plan ahead. You just threw it in, okay? We weren't checking, we didn't have time to check how much Thinset we were getting good bond, and it was a disaster, okay? I lasted in that part of the world for like 3 weeks, and I had to leave the job because it was just, I couldn't work that way and go to sleep at night. For the flooring company that I worked with, they expected a higher quality, okay? It was after the fact, as homeowners. They already own the home. They're watching the installation happen. There's a pickier eye, there's a higher expectation. When a new homeowner walks in a new home and they see tile, as long as they're not tripping over it, they're just in awe of how pretty their new home is. No one even knows if that stuff is gonna last. It's designed on purpose to go in like lightning, and there's less care taken to it. You as a homeowner are gonna wanna take care and get a quality installation. So we're gonna show you how to do quality work rather simply. Now let's just jump into this, because the first thing I wanna teach you is, when you go to buy your Thinset, there's a lot of different qualities in your Thinset. Most installations require a basic modified Thinset. Runs about $20, $15 to $20 a bag. But I got a trick for you. This is 50 pounds of Mape ceramic tile mortar. It's a Thinset. And it comes in a bag like this because somewhere along the way during the shopping process, it got punctured and lost a handful of the mortar, and it was marked down to $7, okay? It was right here, it was $14.97, now it's $7. All right, it gives you an idea of the kind of markup that they have at the store when they're willing to sell it for half price because it has a little hole and you lost a handful of ridiculous. Anytime you're buying Thinset, check to see if they have a pail or a bag with a bag like this. Great value, okay? Now I'm gonna just go through layout options for you. There's a couple of ways to do it. We're gonna show you both options, and then you can pick what works best for you depending on the situation you're dealing with. So here's a typical bathroom. The layout here is simple. The hope is that that is square, universal symbol for square, right? And in a lot of cases, you'll see guys come in and the bathroom will be 5 feet wide, the same size as the tub, right? And they'll buy a tile that's 1 foot wide. And the idea is 5 tiles will finish the room. And they'll check the width and they'll add a grout line, and the grout line will be based on the actual size of the tile, because in a lot of cases a 12 by 12 is actually 11 3/4 by 11 3/4 or 11 7/8 or whatever. And so you have to have space along the edge plus grout lines. You do the math and you can position this, you can fill it up without making cuts along the side. That's basic. But the trouble with this is the walls are made of 2x4s, okay? And in most rooms, the interior section here, and then there's a door to the inside, right? So your tile actually comes across, and then it goes into about 1.5 inches of the wall frame or underneath the door. That's supposed to be your transition. And really good tilers always finish here with a full tile, and they'll cut this and they'll cut every tile along the edges to make that fit. And what they do is they'll measure from here to this point, okay? Do the math based on how many tiles they need, plus the grout lines and the actual size of the tile, and then they'll do a space, and they will start with, let's say it works better if they start here with a 7-inch cut. They'll do a whole row at 7 inches just to end up with a full tile, okay? It's called math. Laying out a bathroom like that to finish with a full tile, that's the professional standard, all right? What you'll see in a lot of cases is they'll start right at the wall, full tiles, finish full tiles, and they'll buy this 1.5-inch piece of marble or corian or some other kind of transition. Or you'll see homeowners, they'll stop here and they'll put a transition, right? And then the door doesn't really cover properly, or you can see the tile from the hallway on the other side of the door. All kinds of disasters happen. The system is really simple. You have about a 4.5-inch piece. Your door is about 1.25 inches wide, okay? Your flooring transition happens in the middle of underneath the door. Tile ends, hallway starts, okay? So when the door's closed, you only can see one type of flooring. If you stop shy over here, you're gonna be able to see under the gap and see the hall. If you bring it all the way over here, you're gonna see both flooring from the other side. Always looks like junk. Transition under the door. I know we're talking about basic tile installs, but this is the stuff that makes or breaks an installation, so that you are gonna be judged by everyone you know and go, yeah, I mean, it's nice and smooth and everything, Fred, but like, what the hell was with where you stopped by the door, right? Don't be that guy. Take the time to map it out. You could have a really great big kitchen. Let's put put a big square here, okay? Let's say this is your kitchen. You got cabinets and appliances, all right? You've got an island, all right? And this is all gonna be tile. Well, this is hardwood, let's say, okay, on both sides. Where do you start your tile in this situation, right? And that is this, right here. You pray to God that this is square. You check, you measure 3, you measure 4, you measure 5, make sure that's square first. That's how you do it, okay? If it's 3 feet up and 4 feet out and it's 5 feet point to point, then that's square, you're golden. Now you can start here. Because you want to have full tile here and full tile here and then work into the room. That's always the best case scenario. If this is a wall and it's not square, right? Then you could start here with a full tile and you get down here and you got a full tile plus a sliver. And that always looks stupid, right? So if your walls aren't square, then instead of starting in the corner, measure from one side of the room to the other. So let's say this is, in a perfect world, it'd be 15 feet and you're using 12 by 12. It'd be 15 tiles, that's perfect. But what you end up with is you end up with 15 and 3 inches. Wow. Now what you want to do is you want to find the midpoint, you want to drop a laser down the middle of that room, and you work off that laser in both directions, okay? And by doing that, if you can have a full tile here, you measure out the distance, and if it's going to give you a sliver, then what you do is you start with a full tile in the middle of your laser line, and then in both cases, instead of a sliver, you'll have like 2/3 of a tile. All right? That's basic 101 of how to do layout. Now we're going to check our floor and see what's going to work best for us in this scenario. Now, it's not fair for me because I'm in a studio, right? I'm going to tile this floor. I have no intention of keeping it long term. It's just for the sake of showing you how to tile. And I have this invisible line that I get to stop at. This vinyl flooring continues on for a long way. I'm going to have a laundry room on the other side of this room, but I'm going to stop my tile here. For argument's sake, we're going to say that this little picture of a grout line is where I'm going to stop, and let's assume that this is hardwood. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure all the way across the room up to my edge. And in this case, it's 152.5. And then I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. We're going to find out if this room is somewhat square because I've got a definitive line. I'm 153. So that's not all that bad. That means I'm out a 1/2 inch over this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet. So I know if I'm going to be out a 1/2 inch, First thing I'm doing is I'm thinking, okay, so that side is shorter than this side, which means this isn't square, okay? So I can't treat this like square. So I gotta figure out where's my square? Until I know where it's square, I don't know anything. So what I can do is this. I can take my laser level, pick my function where I have the two lines, okay? And I can go like this. I can put my green line where my hardwood floor is. Okay, right on that grout line there in the middle. And I can make sure that this line lines up with my finished flooring. And I'm going to use this line, okay, as my tile line. Now just for fun, let's check the linoleum. See what happens here. Because this linoleum comes off of a printing press and it should be perfect. Yeah, not bad. All right. Now I have the right to move this anywhere I want. And so what I generally like to do is I will measure off the one consistent cabinet, and I'll see if I can have like 2 feet. All right, so let's take a look. When you're doing layout, you have to do two things. You have to consider square with your lasers and then the materials, okay? You physically want to lay these out and check it out. So here's a tile next to it. There's a space. I want a bit of a space to the cabinet. I'm going to put some kind of trim there later. So here we go. Now I'm going to just create my straight line here again, right off my tile. Okay, there we go. And that is what my layout's going to look like. Now I've got this tech. I'm going to take these two tiles, the other end of the room, and check them there. And I'm just checking to see if I've got the same kind of spacing over here to work with. Now we know that that corner is out of line, but the depth to the cabinet is very consistent. So right away I'm thinking, yeehaw, because if I can have that whole line of the kitchen, which is completely visible at any day, full tile, then that means I'm only working in one direction, right? Now, all I have to do now is figure out how do I finish with a full tile, right? And that's simple. So now I know that I can work from this wall going this way, or I can work from the green line going this way, right? And then finish going backing up. But I got to figure out how to finish with a full tile down there. And I got two options. Because of my laser line, I can actually start tiling down there where my transition is, because that's going to hardwood or my other finished flooring. So I actually have the ability, because it's the same gap, to tile inside this space. It's like paint by numbers, right? This is my space. So I'm going to tile these two rows. When I get to the end, I'm going to cut whatever has to be cut. And then I'm going to start down there, going left to right, finishing those rows off. Nice and simple. That's how you think about layout. Know where you're going to finish, plan ahead, measure backwards, get a square corner, lay your tiles out, confirm your design, and then start from the square spot and then come into your room. If that means you have to tile over 2 days because you just don't have enough room to work, that's fine. Tile half the room, wait till the next day, and then tile the rest. But the layout is the most important factor of doing this job. Now that you know how to do a layout, let's just erase that from our minds, and I'm going to show you proper installation techniques, different designs, different patterns, especially the 12 by 24s. How to put the thinset down, how to get a good bond, right? And then while I'm doing all that, I'll share stories with you about all the different tile failures that I had to go fix from other contractors and what they did wrong, okay? And help you avoid all those mistakes. But first, we got to mix some thinset. That's simple. The instructions are on the bag. It's powder, water, it's throw in the mixer. It's mix it for a while, let it stand, and then give it another quick mix. And as soon as I've got that done, we'll start tiling. Now it's getting cold where I live, so I'm mixing in the house. It's a studio, I'm not gonna worry about it. I don't recommend mixing in the house. If you do, wear a mask. I know, it's like, you get exposure, you know, if you do tiling for the rest of your life, whatever you do for your living is gonna kill you, but you know, protect yourself if you're sensitive at all. A quick shout out to the guys over at Dragona, by the way. It's my favorite tile supplier store here in Ottawa. If you're in the area and you're looking for flooring or tile supplies, go to Dragona. They even sell bags that have been opened, and they'll throw it in a pail. So you get the pail and the cement all for a really good price. So, hell of a deal if you ask me. Anyway, here we go. And this is a messy job because it comes out in clumps, of course. All right, now, I've been doing this for so many years, I don't even bother to measure anymore. You can go ahead and follow the directions on the bag, okay? Basically, you're gonna be mixing half a bag of cement for every pail that you're working with. So you got 2 loads of it. You always start with water first. Loving it. Okay, now we have to let this sit for about 10 minutes and then we mix it again. The telltale sign here is that when you run your finger through it, it kind of holds its shape. After about 10 minutes of setting up, it should hold its shape. So let's wait and see. Okay. Here we go. So we got 2 installation tools, and my level is around here somewhere, yeah? All right, here we go. Beautiful. I got my Thinset, and I got a bucket of water and a sponge. And I got my little spacers over here, okay? So we're gonna go 2 tiles out. And so just to remind myself, that takes me an inch or so past this line. For simplicity, I'm gonna do 2 rows with a square installation, and then I'll do 1 row with the 50% offset installation, just to demonstrate the different installations, so then you can pick which is nicer for you. If you were to hold your tile stack up and put a straight edge on it, okay, you're gonna notice there's some minor variations, okay? Ceramic is like that. Ceramic tile, and that's not bad for variation. I've seen some pretty extreme variations. Because they're different sizes, right? And you want to put everything in square and square and square, your grout line has to be a little bit bigger. You've got to give yourself that room. So for instance, right here we got 1/8 spacers, okay? That's a 1/8 of an inch. A lot of older tile installations were up to 1/4 inch grout line. Okay, because the tiles are all such varying sizes. The way that you would set it is you'd throw a 4 or 5 down like this, right? And then you'd line up the front edge. All the tiles, you just line up the front edge, and then you got a straight line again, and then you do the next one. Because they're so varying, there's no way you could use spacers. Spacers are only invented once they started making tiles consistently the same size. All right, so these aren't bad. If you're wondering which tile to buy, ceramic is the easiest to cut. Porcelain, if it's cheap porcelain, is harder to cut and is more consistent. And really good quality porcelain is bang on. You're gonna have very much the precision you're looking for. So that's more for the tile walls and stuff. Showers, definitely invest in the porcelain if you want precision. But if you don't mind thicker grout lines, then don't worry about it, okay? So we're just gonna take out a few little blobs of our Thinset here. Try to work clean so you're not kneeling in the cement. You don't want to have your handle that you're holding covered in cement. Okay? Once you've laid that out, it's basically go like this, load your trowel, and then reach back under your cabinet, okay? To get Thinset all the way to the back. So you want to set your trowel and pull it across at the same angle. Okay? The other thing we're looking for is all these lines have to be in the same direction. We'll just show you real quick. Something like this. Okay? These lines, all the air that's in this gets trapped when you try to collapse the ridges, because the proper installation technique is to have all the ridges go in the same direction. All right. Here's another thing you don't want to get caught. Don't get caught going, oh, I don't have enough cement. Well, I'll just lower my angle here, and now it looks fine. But if you're ridging this everywhere else, see what happens? You get these little air pockets, those spaces. It's because there's not enough cement there. Don't cheat. Whatever your angle is, be consistent. All right? And then every tile will install the same height. All right. Now, rule number 2, check the back of the tile. No one will ever tell you this, but a lot of these tiles will have an arrow, okay? Because a lot of ceramic tiles are recurring pattern. And so they design so that if you have an arrow and you always install all the arrows the same direction, then the mind won't see the pattern, get all confused. So let's say there's a big arrow on this tile on the front, and you started setting them down and all the arrows are pointing in the same direction. All of a sudden, one tile was laid with the arrow pointing right. Your brain would go, well, that's stupid. Well, the design and recurring patterns on some of these tiles are really obvious. And so they put arrows in the back in the print so that you can install your tiles facing the right direction so no one can see the recurring pattern. That's good to know. Now, you just set it, drop it. That is not installed, okay? You have to put weight on it, and then you have to collapse the ridges by pulling it forward. First, use your margin trowel, clean where the tile is going to go so that the cement doesn't get squished up between the lines. Next tile, go right up against the other one, okay? But push back. You go like this, and you collapse the ridges by pulling in this direction, okay? Boom, right there. Now what you've done is you've set the tile, you've collapsed the ridges, you've basically done this, okay? And there should be a perfect bond between the tile and the cement looking like this. And the goal here is to get as close to 100% as you can. And most floors, 85% coverage is great. So let's take a look, see how we did. All right. I would suggest that is probably somewhere around the 50 to 60 range. All right. Now, newsflash. 50 to 60% tile coverage on new home construction is actually pretty darn good. Okay? I know the whole world is going to be screaming at that concept, but the reality is it's good. Now, here, let me just show you this one. Again, start square, pull it forward. Now, put some downward pressure on that tile and wiggle it. You can already see the difference in the height of the tiles, right? Now we're going to see what kind of contact we have here. We can get underneath this thing. A lot more suction. It's usually a good sign. All right. That's a lot better. Okay. Let's just get that back in where it goes. What I'm looking at here right now is an acceptable tile installation in most new house construction. Do your trowel and do your next 3 rows all at the same time. Now you want to make sure that you got enough cement for the whole tile. Trowel in the same direction. Here we go. Tile number 1. Press and collapse the ridges, sliding it towards you. All right. Number 2. Press. See, when it's tight here and here and you press, you're not pushing cement through the gaps, okay? You're just getting that bond. Now you're going to collapse while you press with your pressure, okay? This is how you can make this work. Really good for you. Okay. Here we go. All right. Let me do one full row here and then we'll show you some 50% offset, okay? Okay, so now I'm gonna just demonstrate the 50% offset, okay? And then the brick pattern. I'll show you the difference with this tile. Okay, here we go. So, 50% offset. Okay. Line. %50 offset is this. That's 6 3/4 and 6 3/4. Okay, and you collapse it until it's in the middle. What you can do is you can take the measurement of your tile. These are 13.5, so that's exactly 6 3/4. That's your middle line, and so you can line it up in your grout, okay? So we're taking the first tile of the row and putting a mark on it for the center line. That just makes it real easy to set up success. Okay, again as you go. Wash as you go. Set, pressure, pull towards you, create grout lines. That's what 50% offset looks like. The next pattern that you might want to use with a 13 by 13 is more of what I call the brick pattern. Take your tile, measure it, it's 13.5. You're gonna do this one in thirds this time, okay? So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1.5 inches. So we're gonna go with 4.5 is our line. Okay, we'll set that one down and then we're gonna pull it back. All right, same thing. Clean your edge. This tile work is very repetitive, right? Now, about this time, the comment section is blowing up with people going, how come you haven't backbuttered? Truth of it is that in the world of tile installation, yeah, there are better procedures than what you're watching right now. And we're gonna show that in just a second, but this is what almost every new home floor installation looks like. Mention a couple stories and then we're gonna jump into the 12 by 24. But right there you've got the standards, right? A standard square pattern, a standard 50%, a standard brick, 1/3, okay? Things that can go wrong. One, we live in a 4-season climate here. So in a lot of cases, guys will go and buy this tile, they'll stick it on their truck, drive it to a job site, and it's freezing cold outside, right? And then they're working in like a front hall or somewhere off the kitchen, off the main floor, they're in and out using their saws and their tools. And the house cools down and the tile never really warms up. It doesn't climatize to the room they're working in. So the tile has actually changed size. And the tiles are on a big skid and the ones on the outside are colder than the ones in the middle. And depending on what happens with the unloading, and you can have 2 very distinctly different temperature boxes of tile and you're working along and all of a sudden the tiles you're working with are too big or they're too small and everybody panics. It's just not climatized. The other thing that happens is when this back of this tile, when it's cold, the thinset doesn't bond to it very well, okay? It almost gets shocked and it gets like a layer of moisture. Condensation happens. You'll have warm thinset in the house with a cold tile and then it's like microscopic, but there's like a thinset condensation instantly happens there. And so the thinset doesn't bond and these just pop off. So if you've got tiles popping off, like full tiles, it's because there's no bond. Even though if they could set it, they could collapse ridges. If it's cold, nothing's bonding to this. It'll just pop right off later. I've also seen situations where we're installing tile and we have wood subfloor, okay? So we'll have OSB, 1/2-inch subfloor. And that's good because then you get your 1 1/8 thickness, which is up to code. But then what'll happen is someone will come along and they'll be putting all their wood in, and then the next day someone will come in and sand all the drywall. Well, the tile guy is not paid to sweep the floors. Project manager lets somebody come in and then tile right over top of that mess. Tile guy doesn't care, he's getting paid, he puts the tile down. Now the cement that's on the back side of this tile is sitting on a surface covered in dust. What do you think this is bonded to? The dust. Again, cracks, pops, lifts. So, the rules of tile are basic and simple. Climatize your product, which doesn't happen in 90% of the situations. Okay? The product gets picked up, delivered, and installed the same day. Mistake number one. So a good renovator will know better, but a lot of installers don't follow that rule. Make sure that you're clean and dry, climatized, right? And then the only other thing that you can do to possibly screw up a tile installation is to make sure that people stay off it for another whole day. How many times I've come home, I've come to the job the next day to grout, and the tile that was like this is now sitting like this. And you're like, I didn't install that. And the homeowner's like, well, we never stepped on it. We never stepped on it. And I'm like, yeah, the hell you didn't, right? Like, what are you gonna do? You gotta bust the tile out, you gotta fix it, you gotta install another one, and then you gotta wait another day to come back and grout. Have control over the job. So if you're working at home and you're tiling, always have your butt facing the door while you work, okay? So you do a room and you finish at the door, you close the door, you lock it, you put blue tape up, I don't care what you gotta do, you know, like set a bear trap, whatever it is, you know, keep them off your tile. All right, now let's get away from this 13 by 13 business and let's get into some 12 by 24s. We'll show you the difference and I'll show you some advanced techniques for installing tiles so that you don't have issues with this kind of 50% adhesion. Now they all start out the same, eh? Lots of Thinset. Now listen, there are other tools you can buy that make this a little faster. There's great big bucket scoops that you can pick up, or if you like, you can get different cements. This is a fairly basic Thinset. It's a modified Thinset, so it's got a little bit of latex in it, and it also has a lot of sand, so it's very thin and loose, and not my favorite, but it was sure cheap, and I love a good deal. The other options, of course, is like Ultralight by Mapei as well, and that one is more like a whipped cream. It's really easy to work with. It's a more pricier brand, but you get what you pay for. So the more difficult the situation that you're tiling, don't be afraid to spend good money on cement. You can get it up to $65, $80 a bag. And sometimes the technology is worth it depending on what you're dealing with. If you got questions about that, you can always join our membership program and hit me up and say, hey, here's the room, show me a picture. This is the tile, this is the situation, this is where I live, right? And then we can help you to navigate a proper assembly situation for yourself. All right, here we go. So we're gonna get our Thinset laid out here. All right, no sense wasting any time. Here we are. This is called directional troweling. Yeah, I know. Leave it up to guys to come up with a technical term for putting cement on a floor. It's funny because if you use the right term, everybody thinks you're an expert. Okay, now my next favorite term. I love this term, I hate it. It's something that the Home and Garden television channel started using years ago. They had contractors and they started using the term backbutter. Back when 13 by 13 was a big stone, and then they moved to these, right? All of a sudden now we have backbutter. And it's basically this. I'm gonna double check here on this tile and see if they're straight. Yeah, not bad, okay? That's not bad. All right, now what you're gonna find in the industry is there's a lot of tile out there that's like thin and long, like they look like wood, 6 by 42s or something. And instead of being straight, they actually have a bow, okay? And when you set it down, they all have a hump. And so different products have different recommendations for installation as to the grout line spacing. And you need to know this because some grout lines, they only let you do the offset tile by 6 inches or by 20% or whatever. So always check with the tile, especially if you're a tradesman and someone says, oh, can you get this tile for me? It's pretty. And then you come to the job site and the tile recommendation is this much spacing for a reason. And they say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do it stacked, which means every tile's right in front of the other and they all have a bump. That works. Or they go, oh, I want 50% offset. Wait a minute, then I got a hump, and then I got a grout line here with another hump. Every corner is gonna have lippage. So, You got to make sure that if you're in the trades, your customers understand that tiles have limitations, and you can't just say, this is the one I want and this is how I want it done. There are things that you're going to be stuck with following. But here's the go Backbutter. You turn the trowel around. Now you're more of a drywaller, okay? Put a little bit of Thinset on there. All right? And you just put a skim coat on. Now for most guys that's good enough, especially if you're in production situations. But as a homeowner, get good 90% coverage or more, okay? No reason not to. All right? And then you go throw that in. Okay. All right. Done. Now I didn't put too much pressure on that because I want to lift it up. I want to check the coverage on this because, hey, it's the same Thinset, it's a bigger tile, it's a concrete floor, but we backbuttered, so you'd think we should have much better contact. Let's have a look. Right? And so, when I show this to people, they go, wow, that's great coverage. All right? But take a good hard look at what you're looking at. These peaks are actually where the coverage is. Okay? Just because you got this cement on everywhere doesn't mean it's actual coverage, because that's a valley, that's a valley, that's a valley, that's a valley. There's no contact there with the floor. So even when you backbutter, in most cases, even though the tile's covered in cement, the actual bond you have with the floor is going to be a lot less. Okay? There's this one guy on the internet, he did that tile video. He pressed a piece of glass into some really wet Thinset to show you how to collapse the ridges. And it's just like, okay, first of all, there's no such thing as tile made of sheets of glass like that, so you can see how you're setting as you go. We don't see underneath. So that was a cute demonstration. It has like lots of views, and I get the concept, but the reality of it is, all you can do when you're working is trust your installation procedure. You're not picking up every tile as you go and checking the back. Check it when you make your cement, okay? Check it once every half an hour or so, because it'll start to dry, and you want to make sure that you're still getting good bond, okay? But outside of that, like, that's all you can do, right? That's all you can do. Push down, collapse the ridge, and then walk away. Okay? Let's do some stack, because 12 by 24 is actually really good if you want to stack it. Now, you'll see this in a lot of showers too. People love to do stack tile in a shower. Okay? Stack tile in a shower looks like this. There's no offset. Okay? Press it down, pull it forward. Clean your cement off the side. Okay, there we go. Now you'll see, let me show you this. Right now they're all pretty level, right? Let's show you the difference of not backbuttering. All right, this is a great example. Set it down, we pull it forward. Okay, let's get my level to show you. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but my trowel is going right underneath that gap. That's a pretty significant gap underneath there. And that's what ends up happening, because now we've changed the assembly by not doing backbutter. Now, just out of curiosity, let's pull this one off, see how it looks. Not a whole lot different, except in the middle there is no bond. That's almost hardly anything, right? So that's what this is for. All right, let me just clean this mess up and we'll show you what a good stack stone installation looks like. All right, here we go. This is what we call clean as you go. Quick little trick here. If you've got cement in between the grout lines, push your tiles together, wipe it out, okay? Sponge the area, and then pull them apart. And it instantly creates a void in a grout line, somewhere that the grout can fill, okay? Nice and quick. But this is what stacked stone looks like. That's the design, all right? And as long as the tiles are all the same size, it works great. But like I said, if you're buying a case and you're not sure, stand them all on end and double check, because if they're all a different size, it's a nightmare doing stack tile. And you'll drive yourself crazy. Okay. Just to be sure, I always recommend go to a tile store to buy your tile from. All right. And I'll tell you why. Because tile stores have people working there who have access to the data sheet on the tile that they're selling. And there's information that's available that you don't get anywhere else. Like, not every tile is designed to be installed in a shower. Did you know that? That ought to blow your mind. What, Jeff, did you just say? Yep, there's lots of tiles out there that actually don't meet the criteria to install in a shower because they have mosaic patterns and they have water-based adhesives on the mesh that's on the back. And you can't install that in wet areas. So you can find out all that information when you go to a tile store that's professional and they specialize in selling tile. They'll tell you what your limitations are for your grout pattern and your installation patterns and all that kind of fancy stuff. All right, now what we want to do is we're going to show a couple of different grout line installations. I have just enough room to get this done, so let's do this. Okay. All right, try to keep this clean here. All right, here we go. Now, for the sake of argument, I'm not going to backbutter anymore. It's a real big waste of time because I'm just doing a demonstration on installation patterns. That's stacked. This is half offset. Okay, this is what we're going to call 25% measuring tape. Anybody know? Here we go. Okay, and that's basically 6 inches on these. All right, here we go. Slide it forward. All right, and the reason I'm showing you this quick in a hurry is I don't want to waste your time, but I want to show you a great grouting trick for floors in large spaces. Okay, so your next option with the 6-inch offset is to go like this. Okay, and it starts to look like a bloody staircase. All right, and if that's the look that you want, then great. But here's the other option you have. It's funny that I'm actually showing design patterns and laying it all in Thinset instead of just laying it on the ground.
Yeah, true.
I get in the habit, I just get stuck in it. So here's the other option. Okay, you went 6 inches one way, you come back 6 inches the other way. Okay, and I'll show you why this is so attractive in large spaces. Okay, pencil. It's a great cement remover, okay? All right, now. Right now, my grout lines throughout the entire room are like 2 rows, okay? Okay, makes sense? So visually speaking, you have a 6-inch piece row, and then you have a 1.5 foot row, and then a 6-inch row with alternating grout lines. And that's why that looks so amazing in a large space. This is a lot more pleasant to the eye than just stepping and stepping and stepping and stepping and stepping. If you do a kitchen where you just go step, 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 and you've got a 12 by 30 space or something, it's gonna look like hell. Don't do that. Do it this way, go over 6, back 6. And then when you're standing there and you're looking at it, it'll be so pleasing to the eye because it'll still be somewhat stacked and linear. Instead of looking confused, right? Confusing patterns, they just drive the mind nuts and it's not a pleasant room to be in. This is easy on the brain, staggered over and over, step, 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 always looks like hell. Okay, so remember, you're either on concrete or you're on some sort of wood structure. If you're on wood structure and you have a crawl space directly underneath, I submit that the best assembly for you is Thinset and then 1/2-inch cement board, okay? I love that assembly in that kind of scenario in that region of the world. If you have a basement and you're on wood, then going wood OSB with plywood is also a great way. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very normal. It's low cost. It's easy. You don't have to make Thinset to get your subfloor done. You just got to stand up and screw it down. We got a video on that. I'll put that in the description. If you're on concrete, the only enemy that you have is how flat it is. You might have to pour floor leveler if you want to get perfection. If you're just tiling a basement and you're willing to go with the curves, this installation here with 12 by 24 works great, because this really has the ability, because your curve is only 6 inches wide, the floor can really be laid out in a bowl with hardly any lippage at all. Okay, so consider that. This is a great way to do a floor. Other than that, you know, you get what you pay for. If you have unique situations or bad weather or just really expensive stone and you want to guarantee you're never going to have an issue, or you're putting your tile under an $80,000 kitchen cabinet, for God's sake, spend the $80 a bag on your Thinset, okay? Remember, we've been laying tile as a society all over the world for thousands of years. But not until 1960 did we change the way that we installed it. Okay, Thinset's new in construction. It's only 60 years old. And for the last 20 or 30 years, people have just been figuring out how to do it well. All right, and I'm not kidding. We're now at a point where we're feeling more comfortable in the world of construction technology to go bigger and bigger stones. And a lot of that has to do with this type of house you have. Do you have dimensional lumber framing, or are you getting engineered I-joists made out of OSB and lumber? There's so many factors. Don't take it for granted just because it's big and beautiful you can stick it in your house. It's not the case. The smaller the tile, the more success you're going to have. That's a rule, okay? The bigger the tile, the more you need to know about what's going on in your whole assembly. All right? So if you want success and you're a beginner, keep small. 12, 12, 12, or 13, 13s, 12, 24, and keep your joints staggered like this, okay? These are the most successful installations you have as an option, and they will serve you well, okay? Now, we did not put any cutting information in this video, and there's a reason for that. Because this is how to apply it, how to be successful with your installation. Cutting is a different beast. And might I suggest, as a beginner, get your layout, get your pattern going, do all your full tiles, come back the next day, and then measure and do all your cuts. And here's why. You're gonna find that's gonna slow you down a lot. And Thinset is only good in the pail for about an hour or hour and a half, tops. It starts to dry out pretty quick, okay? And then you're gonna be working with a drier compound that won't bond as well. And you could run into the next problem as a homeowner, and that is your Thinset got old and it just don't stick no more, and things aren't gonna bond. So, do all the full tiles, then come back the next day, do all your cuts, set them in place, okay? Like put blue tape on them or something, but put them in place. Then go mix your Thinset when all your cuts are done. Come back in and do all your cuts at the same time with fresh Thinset so you get a good bond. That's how you guarantee a good installation. Get yourself a pencil. So when you set all your tiles and your cuts, you can clean the grout or the cement between the lines using a pencil. It's made of wood and graphite. There's no chance of chipping your tile. You don't want to come in the next day and grab something like this. These little chips, when you go at grout, the dark spaces are all gone. All you're gonna see is a chip corner, okay? So avoid using any metal tools on your tile after you're done. When I'm cleaning the cement next to it, I'm on an angle, and the only contact I'm making is at the bottom of the tile, not the top. Very important. So grab yourself a couple pencils, have a lot of fun with it. Playing in the mud is fun, all right? And if you wanna learn how to cut tile, you can click the link right here. We did a great video showing you all the different cutting tools, different materials that need what cutting tool, and how to get great success in your tile job. Cheers and have a lot of fun with it. We'll see you in the next video.